All right, folks, here we go. We are now moving on to illiberal responses of liberal government. So, as it says on the page, the prefix ill means not. So when something's illiberal, it means it's not liberal. And you know what? When someone like Stalin or Hitler denies certain rights to people, it's no big surprise. But when a liberal government, like the Canadian government or the American government, does something illiberal, it's a bit of a surprise, right? Because we believe that, entrenched in our constitutions, like and aspects of it, like the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, or in the American Bill of Rights, which of course is part of their constitution, we believe that there are certain rights that are entrenched, that are owed to us as citizens of this country. So the first example that we're going to look at as an illiberal response is something called the USA Patriot Act. Okay, so the USA Patriot Act. Now, a little bit of context. I'm just going to move this down a little bit. A little bit of context. When we talk about the USA Patriot Act, we're talking about an act that was passed about a month after the September 11th terrorist attacks, right? These attacks forever changed the way we interact with authority, with government, when we go flying. Like, the world after the 9/11 terror attacks has forever changed. So a month or so after the terror attacks, the American government passes something known as the USA Patriot Act. We'll just call it the Patriot Act. So first off, you have to consider the language used here, the Patriot Act, as if to disagree with it, you are not a patriot. And if you're not a patriot, you don't love your country. And America just got attacked, so how can you not be a patriot? So on September 11th, 3,000 people died, right? And this was the worst domestic terrorism attack in the United States since the attack on Pearl Harbor, of course, which started America's participation in World War II. Now, as you can see in this first image, we have King Kong, right? I'm not sure if you know the story of King Kong. If you don't, read a book. But anyway, so King Kong, he's climbing to the top of, in the case of the original movie, he's on top of the Empire State Building, and then he gets attacked by biplanes, right? Because he's this big crazy ape running amok in New York City. And in this case, the King Kong-like figure here is representing civil liberties, right? The liberties guaranteed to Americans by their Constitution. And he is being attacked by, as it says, this first plane right here. It says NSA eavesdropping. And we'll talk more about that here in a second. What else is attacking him? This plane says Patriot Act. This plane says warrantless domestic spying. So what did the Patriot Act do in the United States of America? So after the attack on America on the 11th of September 2001, the U.S. government passes this sweeping law which unilaterally lowers the threshold of what the government can do as far as searching or seizing into your life. Before, the government could, arrest, detain, search, seize, spy on you, go through your phone records, anything like that. They had to get a search warrant. Now, after the terror attacks and the passage of the Patriot Act, that's no longer necessary. So there's an incredibly lowered threshold of what is permissible under the Patriot Act. Now, the government justifies this as, we have to do this to stop further terror attacks, right? That is the excuse that George W. Bush and the American government used at this time, right? This is necessary to stop further terror attacks. And it brings into play the old freedom versus security dichotomy that we see. And I will raise the quote of one Ben Franklin, who said, "Those who trade liberty for security deserve neither." So anyways, freedom versus security. Let's talk about this for a sec. So freedom versus security, you can have total freedom and no security. you can have total security and no freedom, or you can have a moderate amount of both, right? But it seems like there's a definite trade-off. Where you have freedom, bad things happen sometimes, right? Sometimes people with the freedom that they have use that freedom to do horrible things, right? You only need to look at the mass shootings that happened in the United States of America to understand that. And alternatively, you could live in a country like North Korea where nothing bad ever happens because the people in that country are constantly spied on and they are living in constant fear of their government. So I guess the question is, which do you want to live in? Okay, now, in particular, guys, when we talk of the civil liberties that are foregone by the USA Patriot Act, it is in particular the Fourth Amendment of the American Bill of Rights, which of course is the first 10 amendments of their Constitution. So the American Bill of Rights says something to the effect of, Congress shall not arbitrarily create laws which interfere with the right of citizens to not be arbitrarily searched or seize. Now, the exact language of the amendment, I forget, I'm not an American, but it's something to that effect, right? It's so that citizens aren't arbitrarily searched or seized. Now, after the Patriot Act, that's gone, right? That is history, and that's problematic. Okay, let's scroll down to the next particular image. All right, in this image, we have John Ashcroft. All right, so yeah, in this top image, we have John Ashcroft. You can see it says Ashcroft on his tie. No, it's not super legible. But anyways, who is John Ashcroft? John Ashcroft was the Attorney General of the George W. Bush administration, right? The administration who passed the Patriot Act. Now, guys, as the judicial branch of government, right? Ashcroft, as the Attorney General, he is the head of that branch of government. So the whole point here, guys, as we can see, is that the Patriot Act, right? It's basically being created from a destroying of. Do you know a document starts with "We the people" in American history? That's right, the American Constitution. So the Patriot Act blatantly and unconstitutionally, perhaps, serves as a mechanism that lowers the checks on power of the legislative, executive, and also the judicial branches of government, right? And as we'll see, the U.S. government in the next module actually used tenets of the Patriot Act to arrest and detain citizens from foreign countries and hold them in prisons in both Abu Ghraib and also in Guantanamo Bay, which of course is in Cuba. We'll look at that. Oh, and while they're there, they also tortured people, right? And we'll have a look at that in more detail. All right, moving down. The next image. The next image is that Orwellian future that the Patriot Act has created for us, right? In the book 1984, George Orwell, he postulates about a future where Big Brother is watching everywhere. I don't know if you've had a look around lately, but in the school that we attend normally, there's something like, I think, 70 cameras in the school, and it's not because they want to spy on you. No, it's because they want to keep you safe, right? It's because they want to keep you safe. So don't worry about it, right? Nothing to worry about. The cameras would never be used for nefarious purposes, just like in this image right here. Trust authority. They'll never abuse their authority. Nothing to worry about. I actually have a theory. I'll share it with you here. I actually have a theory that I believe the reality TV show Big Brother, how everyone watches it and you spy on the people and everything's recorded, everything's heard. I actually think it is trying to normalize the surveillance state that we live in now after the passage of the Patriot Act. All right, this image, not exactly subtle, right? Much like how the Twin Towers were destroyed by the planes on 9/11. In this case, the Bill of Rights, which is symbolized by the Twin Towers, is being destroyed by the American Patriot Act. Now, guys, don't just think that this is a American issue. Sorry, parched. Don't just think that this is an American issue. I mentioned in the last module how here in Canada, how the Canadian government used a time of crisis after the Parliament Hill shootings of 2014 to pass something known as the anti-terror legislation, right, of 2015. So, you know, I don't think that the 9/11 terror attacks were conducted by the American government, like it was some big conspiracy or anything like that. But I do think that they used the crisis that was America after 9/11 to push through this incredibly controlling legislation, which gave the government of the United States extraordinary power, much like how after the Parliament Hill shooting here in Canada in 2014, 2015, what do we get? We get the passage of the anti-terror legislation, and what does it do? It gives government and CSIS, which is our spy agency, more power to arrest, surveil, and detain. Never let a crisis go to waste. And guess what? Didn't we also see that in Germany in 1933? Technically, Germany in 1933 was a liberal democracy. The Weimar Republic, right? They had a crisis, that being the Reichstag fire. And how did Hitler use this? He used it, and in the case of the fire, it might have been set by the Nazis, but we don't know for sure. But anyways, he used it to convince the German Reichstag to support this thing called the Enabling Act. What did the Enabling Act do? It suspended the German Constitution and gave the soon-to-be Nazi dictatorship full authority to suspend the Constitution and do whatever they want. So guys, we've seen this numerous times through history, but I personally, I don't trust people, and I don't trust, because governments are made up of people, I don't trust things like this. It only takes the wrong person to just flip the switch and use these powers for negative purposes. And as we found out from Edward Snowden, right, the whistleblower from the NSA, the government was in the United States using these new powers to not just spy on terror suspects, but to spy on everybody. The U.S. government became that Hobbesian Leviathan that we should fear. It was becoming too big and too powerful. Okay, and then in the last image of the package, we have the old liberty versus security debate, which I've already spoken about here in the video. We have the noble American bald eagle, right? The symbol of freedom as it flies wherever it wants. And after the Patriot Act, it is caged, right? It is caged. And notice what is on the bottom of the bird cage here. We have the American Bill of Rights, which is being pooped on by the mighty noble American bald eagle. Freedom is gone, but it's definitely secure, right? Nothing bad can happen to it inside of that cage. All right, folks, that is the USA Patriot Act. And yeah, hopefully you don't trust authority much like I don't. And we will see how this continues to be abused by both American authorities in the case of the use of torture in Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib, and then also here in Canada under the War Measures Act of World War I and World War II. All right, don't trust the man, guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.